Alrighty, welcome to the Excitable Soul Podcast, everybody. Here we're interested in all things purpose. We want to know where and how people find meaning and connection in their lives. In every episode, we will be hearing the real life stories of how people have uncovered, understood, and unleashed their own unique sense of purpose. Our hope is that we can all learn from the journeys of our guests so that we can all better find a sense of purpose in our own lives. I'm host James Glover, performance coach and purpose nerd. I'm incredibly excited to be exploring these stories with you. So let's get going, shall we? Hello, everybody. Today we have Dave Linton with us. Dave is an innovator, social entrepreneur, motivational speaker, and the founder and managing director of multi-award winning Madlug, which achieved B Corp certification in 2022. Prior to beginning his journey with Madlug, Dave was a youth worker for over 20 years, and for the past 8 years has also become heavily involved in mentoring and raising awareness of social enterprises and social business. Following a hugely successful crowdfunding campaign with Madlug over the summer of 2017, in 2019, Dave went on to become and win the prestigious title of GBEA Entrepreneur of the Year for Northern Ireland and Entrepreneur for Good for the UK. In 2024, he became Randall Foundation Entrepreneur of the Year for Northern Ireland. Dave is extremely passionate about using Madlug to influence a new, younger generation of social entrepreneurs. His journey and his work is incredible, and I found this conversation really emotive. I hope you do too. Enjoy. Okay. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Excitable Soul Podcast. I'm massively excited today. What else would I be? But we have Dave with us, and we've just had 5 minutes kind of preamble before we press record, and the energy level just seems to have ramped up. So if you're kind of coming from a calm place into this conversation, sorry, but kind of not sorry. We'll hopefully kind of guide you and adjust you in. But Dave, welcome. How are you feeling today?
Yeah, good. Thanks, James. It's really, really good to be on this podcast and to spend this little bit of time exploring together and being excitable together in many ways.
we were just kind of chatting about both being dyslexic, where we read, what we don't read, kind of the fact that actually just kind of being in the moment and kind of going for it is preference on both sides. So I guess we probably need to tee up the audience. We have no real clue where this conversation is going to go, but we're both in it.
Exciting.
Mega. So one of the things that would be really wonderful, Dave, is the whole principle of the Excitable Soul Podcast is about meaning. It's about purpose. It's about understanding what's kind of really shaped how somebody shows up in the world. What are the kind of the experiences or the people that has helped them find kind of importance and significance? And I'm wondering if we can just start there in your journey, really. What have been some of the moments that have really shaped who you are in the world?
Yeah, I'm going to go deep right at the start here, James.
Yeah, brilliant.
So for me, the whole key shaping was at 5. I lost my dad.
Oh wow.
And my my mum didn't work. It was those days when one person had all the money. Raised all the money, and there was no insurances, stuff like that. So in many ways, I lived on the edge of care. And but when I look back, this was key moments for me because for me, I watched a mum who had resilience, who modeled something of care, who went out and got a job, who learned how to drive, who just took it on, and then she was surrounded by significant friends and families. Some people weren't even blood relations, and so the reason I stayed out of a care system was actually because of these significant adults. Neighbors who were like 2 or 3 years older than I was, and they were taking me windsurfing with them, taking me playing football to football matches. They took us on holidays, my sister and I, and there was just this level of significant adult. So that it was that significant adult part, but also what had happened was I was in this this place where my mum stepped in. The resilience that she had, she was the most caring person that I ever knew, and that led to something that she modeled in my life that gave me a sense of caring for people, being
Yeah.
significant adult to other people because of people around. And that's
Yeah.
kind of, and I was interviewed in a recent podcast on a leadership thing, and they said, who's the most significant person in your life? And I was like, my mum. It was just because it was just this moment of just modeling. She went on and she did a bit of home help stuff to just raise money, and somebody
Yeah.
believed in her and said, there's a job offered for an auxiliary nurse. She got an auxiliary nurse job, and when she retired at 65, she retired full time as a seconded to Eunice in the union. And I'm not a
Oh wow.
union person at all,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
but actually, what I modeled from her and her whole journey was she stood up, and I watched her on phone calls. I watched her pastorally caring for people. I watched her complaining to people the directors and managers. And this woman who had no job when my dad died was confident. She was actually in London the day the bombs went all off in on
Oh.
business, and this woman was traveling, making a difference, and just modeled. And I came home some nights, to be honest, and she at our dinner table when I was an adult and I was working, I was coming home. There was a woman. There was people sitting at our dinner tables who were alcoholics, who she had stood and fought for their jobs to be kept. And she thought, well,
Yeah.
I'll distract them and give them friendship. And so when I look back, I mean, I can give you all these people that are influential, but actually, it's the person I was around, the person who had the stuff that I caught from my mum is the
Yeah.
stuff
Yeah.
that gives me this excitement and purpose today. And then
Yeah. Amazing.
those significant family members and so forth. So that's a key part to me.
I mean, Dave, you didn't just go deep there. You went deep and like broad in one hit, like the kind of the significant moment around your dad passing, but then also the significant person in your mum. But you talked about community, you talked about role modeling, you talked about belief, you talked about the kind of the kitchen table and so there's so many things here already. I just want to unpack if that's
Yeah,
okay,
let's do it.
because
Let's do it.
and I guess maybe it's not even in the right order, but there's something really powerful about the kitchen table, and there's something really powerful about the kind of the community that is created around the kitchen table. Like in our family, the kitchen table has always been the central hub of family activity. It's like where when you come together and you sit and eat. My dad used to work away a lot when we were little, but he was always home on Sunday. He was always home for Sunday lunch, so we would always be sat around the table together on Sunday lunch. And even now, like the moments of when I feel a bit lost or when I feel a bit like wobbly, I go home to my mum and dad's and I sit around the kitchen table and I have a cup of tea, and often there is somebody I don't know sat around the kitchen table at my mum and dad's house, because they kind of absorb people in, and people will come and be part of that. So what was that kind of that kitchen table experience like for you, having these people who, if you are, regardless of where, I guess, where you are in terms of age, having people that you don't know in your house, having people that you don't know in your house who are maybe struggling with things. There'll be a lot of people out there listening that are like, what? You kind of invited alcoholics into the house and you have children. What is that all about? So can you just kind of break down that experience for us and what that felt like?
It felt very normal for me
Yeah.
in the sense of, and it came from a place of, you know, I, I was the stranger,
Hmm.
not pure stranger, but I was the non-family member sitting at many other kitchen tables.
Right. Okay.
And so it was very much a sense of, it was the days when you could go, everyone neighbor knew each other and stuff. So we were living in an area where um, we were living in an area that the house was quite nice, but there was poverty, so we couldn't have what the others had in our community. It was
Yeah.
like windows couldn't be changed, so the drafts were coming through. The
Yeah.
the furniture in it was a bit worn and outdated compared to some of the people next door. But there was this sense of everyone just was kind of, you could go and knock the door. Some of them you could go in and just hi, and some of them you called your aunt and uncles, that no blood relationship at all, and and that was very normal. So then whenever you would come home, there was just something of, and it wasn't regular, but it was deep. So it wasn't just
Yeah.
people calling by in a house of hospitality, where
Yeah. Yeah.
strangers just knocked doors. There was an intentionality with the table. It was like, mom had this lady who she 5 times. Should have been fired. Probably if she was my employer, I would have been a frustrated employer. There's no doubt about it. And yet she saw that this person needed a friend, a
Yeah.
distraction, and so it was deep. It wasn't just open. It was deep and infested. And often, most of the time, I witnessed where it backfired,
Huh.
but she kept getting back up and loving the next person and the next person and the next person, and it was for seasons, and that was it, to the point where even growing up as a young person, I had a house where I could always bring a friend back,
Yes. Yeah. Hmm.
and it was never the living my life outside of the house. There was accommodation in the sense of I could arrive with any friend, and they were engaged, and my mum wasn't a nurturing type. I'm not a nurturing type. It was just we're very practical.
Yeah.
But there was one off, looking out for the underdog. And I think my mum's background, well, she came from a family, she was as old as a 14. So she from the start had no education because she had to look after the siblings. That was her kind of space. So I think that just caring, practicality, need,
Yeah.
was something there, and it just became very, very natural, James.
There's such a powerful and wonderful distinction between this isn't just open hospitality, this is deep investment. The kind of the significance of that and the difference of that, and actually surprisingly to me, you saying she's not really the nurturing kind. It wasn't about just nurturing people, it was kind of seeing a need in them and pragmatically being able to meet that need, and feeling good. What was it, do you think, that created this level of kind of bounce back ability? I almost don't want to use the word resilience because it doesn't feel like it's enough or appropriate enough. But the fact that maybe some people did take advantage of that, but that was okay because there was going to be somebody else. Like the fact that she wasn't ever burned by that, it was, where's the next opportunity? Where do you think that came from?
I think it just came from probably our upbringing, large family, but I also think that the key part to being able to do it was she was able to have really good support friends. Those neighbors were in it. She didn't get to choose them as friends. They chose to be her friend.
Yeah.
And so whenever it was tough, they were always there. And so she was really strong at building relationships and
Yes.
connections. So that strength was, so it was never that she was just supporting these people on her own. So she had support, friendships, real friends, and a strength of that. And I think that's um, what I think kept her, to be able, whenever to see reasoning in it, to be able to,
Yeah.
and when you're not the nurturing type, you sometimes then become a lot more practical, so
Yeah.
you can move on quicker. It's whenever
Yeah.
you let your own kind of like fluffy feelings, suppose, in many ways, that's whenever you can't get out of that.
Yeah.
But if you're not that, some people they're positioning as their personality types. I know that's how I am. It's like I'll go get let down, and I can, I've rarely have in fact, I rarely have an enemy, because it's no matter what somebody's done, I always bounce back and try and see the good in it, but learn from it.
Yeah, yeah, amazing. And I wanted to ask, actually, I wanted to just kind of start to pivot into the kind of the way in which that role modeling and the way in which that experience really started to live in you. So, you talked about being 5 years old when your dad passed. That's pretty young, but a pretty informative stage of life. Like I'm thinking about my my little boy right now, who is 5, and what that might be like for him. Um, and you talked about being on the edge of care. So what were some of those experiences like? Like how did all of this wrestle and all this kind of, what was the impact that it had on you and the kind of the experiences that you
I
had?
I didn't really think anything abnormal about it. It's only now when I look into it, I was on the edge of care.
Yeah.
I had
Okay.
a social worker. My mum had a social worker. In those days, we had lots of experiences because of social workers. Because in those days, widows and poverty, there was social workers. Now there's not enough social workers to do those jobs, but
Yeah.
and so you're kind of left, and now it would be most people would have some insurances around, so wealth would be you wouldn't be left in poverty the same.
Yeah.
People have learned about that, and um, but I mean, I can remember just I can remember the kind of things like windows and those things, and um, just wind blowing through them at night and curtains going and stuff. I remembered when everyone else had video recorders, video players, VHS, and I had to wait for about 3 years and get a secondhand one for Christmas. There was
Yeah.
those kind of things that you just you were different from your friends. Um, and but there was other benefits, like the social workers would have arranged for us to be on a holiday, so I got to do kayaking, and I used to think it was brill, go away on a holiday, family holiday. It was all funded and it was activity based, and
Yeah.
and I used to think this is great, my friends aren't getting this. So there was stuff like that I feel that and it just felt normal, it just felt the way it was. There was
Yeah.
things I, as a young boy, I missed out on. There was things like I missed the father to do sports with.
Yeah.
I missed the going to the football matches with my dad and talking. I got taken to football matches by neighbours, but I didn't get to sit at home and talk about football, or to have a bit of that energy. It was always I wanted to go and play tennis, and I used to, that was probably my biggest, if I'm being honest, the biggest challenge that I ended up, when I just before I was married, um by 30, I chose to go and do some counseling around this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because the people, some of the significant people around you, you sometimes, in their willing to help, sometimes felt controlled, and you have all of that stuff, and you kind of grow resentment to all that stuff. and
Yeah.
and then the council, I found this out, that actually I was able to, it was just this light switch. I was able to say, these people care.
Yeah.
And actually, um the perspective that I got is that there was lots and lots of people who had dads that didn't get to go to football, that
Mm.
they were observing in the house unhealthy relationships. They weren't catching the stuff. It's only in an adult I look into it, I go, that's why my mum's a hero.
Yeah. Yeah.
But actually, at the time you're growing up, you were an angry young boy at times, because
Yeah.
you felt the the loss, the
Yeah.
trauma
The
of
the
that loss.
injustice of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and you think everyone's got perfect and you're different, and
Yeah.
actually, in some ways, I have a really positive. I don't have. I didn't see things that some people are unfortunately seeing today in families,
Yeah.
and that was a really, so that was my kind of growing up in care. It was more in the poverty, but it was significant people that
Yes.
if they hadn't have been around, I could have ended up in care.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. And so, can we just pivot and kind of fast forward a little bit into the kind of the more the here and now, and how all of those experiences have shaped the impact that you're trying to create in the world. Can you just talk us a little bit about that kind of that gap, that and the work that you're doing now?
Yeah, so I've when I was 18, I was always in that place where, because of it, I was always positioned more to care for people. So I initially tried to train as an architectural technician when I left school with no qualifications. I took my way into interviews and got jobs and stuff like that. And then a building recession hit, and they made the training post redundant. And so I lost my training post and my job, and chose then, kind of, yeah, probably was, in looking back, it was a bit of a just throw the towel in, and probably because of the lack of the support, the pushing to career building. There was kind of like a level of, you weren't expected to do anything more than a basic job.
Yeah, yeah,
There was no pressure to be anything more than that on me at all. And so I threw a towel in, and had a little period of unemployment. And in that unemployment, somebody says there's a little bit of uh, money that you can get on your unemployment to go and do a training program way back, like years and years ago. So 18, and there was a community youth project, and I went to, and I took the £10 on my dole, and I started going along there. Then there was a part-time job came at the second year of that, and I just filled my boots with doing, kind of courses around youth work and so forth. And that took me on a journey where I spent then 22 years as a youth worker, and still never been qualified as a youth worker. It's one of those things that, it was the days when you could do it. I had, equivalents of, A
Yeah.
levels. Youth work wasn't a degree profession in those days. And then when you become experienced at it, then, there was jobs I couldn't apply for, but I could apply for enough to have a career in it. So it was, because the experience carried it.
Yeah.
And in that journey, my first youth work job was in the heart of Belfast, in the most rundown, toughest communities, and I worked alongside a guy who had spent time, and he modeled something of connecting with the most challenging young people that he could in that time, that community. And something connected with me is to always just love working at the edge, the young people who are the ones that most people want to suspend for a few weeks and put them out and always shout at them and stuff like that. And I grew the biggest love and heart for that kind of young person. And I remember growing up always having this feeling of, as I was doing that, I was also feeling like someday if I get, when I get married, adoption, fostering is going to be something. I want children in care. It was just always something. I didn't really know. I just knew foster children. I thought, yeah, we could foster. We could. That was it. So I met my wife. She was my wife Judith. She was doing respite or short break foster care, and as a single girl, she had just her placement had just finished, and but we kind of connected in that space. And then when we got married, I went through and got the processes to become a foster carer. And then when we had our first foster placement, a little girl 8 who came once a weekend every month, and that young girl basically is 30 with 3 kids under the age of 11, no partners around, and is at our table for Christmas dinner with all of our family, and is like part of our family. So we never fostered any more than that one. Then my wife and I, we always said we would, no matter if we had birth children, we would adopt. So we adopted our oldest daughter, and thinking that we wouldn't have any children, and after trying for a while, and actually she came to us when she was 18 months. She's now 20. She's thriving, and within a few. Yeah, when my wife left work to go on adoption leave, she felt unwell, and she then found out she was pregnant. So we adopted our daughter in the September. She came to live with us, and we had a birth child in April. So we have 2 children, and there's 18 months or 2 years between them, which is like the perfect age type thing.
Yeah.
And
done. Wallop, ready-made family, boom.
Ready, yeah. So we went, and I have to be honest, like, you get in that mode. You don't want to lose you've gone through all this adoption process. You don't want to lose the child that you've fallen in love with through pictures, through all that stuff. And then you're thinking, like, they're going to stop that because it's, we've got now pregnant.
Yeah.
And I remember the social worker going, saying, I've never experienced anything like this before. And I went, can you do it? And I went, oh yeah, no problem. We're okay.
Yeah, we're okay. Yeah.
And we do it now. It was tough. It was tough.
I bet.
It's like you went from none to 2 straight away. And I know you get the people who have twins and stuff, and but they're at the same stage. It was like you've got terrible 2s on landing, and you've got, or teachable 2s, I like to say. And then you've got
at like 18 months, 2 years, they're just at the kamikaze age, right? Which is no fear, want to be everywhere, totally finding their own mind. So you've got all that flying around at the same time as you've got something that can't exist by itself.
and you have the first child birth child, you've got a thing where you've never done it before. So
Yeah.
you're even more protective, you're more worried, you're more
Yeah.
cautious, like make sure the milk's right,
Yeah.
make sure the video camera, all that stuff. You become more anxious. And then second, third, from what they tell me, it's like, it's you get
Yeah.
through it and stuff. So we were doing all of that in the time. And but I suppose it's the same way as I got into architectural technician, is it was just presented a great confidence, and we can do it, no
Yeah.
problem. And then it was just the reality. So that's where we have. So then part of my job, I as a youth worker, I was a director of a youth project and my team, and they wanted me to live in the community, and they provided me with a house to live close to
Oh wow,
the
cool.
thing.
Yeah.
I was bigger and we could afford, so we rented our own house. We went and lived in this house, moved out, and my wife says we could foster again. We could do more fostering, but because we had had a break, the girl we had was still really connected. We were committed. We were part of our family. So we didn't, we lost the kind of being approved foster care. And then we had moved into a new area, and
Right.
they sent us back to the start to do the training again. And it was really, really boring, if I'm being honest. It was like tick box, you have to do it, and we'll
Yeah.
just do it. And what made it even more boring was the level of quality of how it was delivered.
Oh wow.
I call
Yeah.
it ping pong, but it's training. It's like
Yeah. Yeah.
social worker reads a line, the next social worker reads a line, and the next they'll go back. It's like I'm not in a youth center now playing table tennis.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just PowerPoint by death. But um, the week four was just how do I get to it was just here we're seeing the end of this. This is the reality, and it was all about kids moving. And they showed a video of a young girl, and she was in a wheelchair, a teenager, probably about 15 years of age, and she made this statement: when we move, the local authorities, the local trusts, don't give us suitcases. Sometimes foster carers will loan us a suitcase, but quite often our belongings are moved in black plastic bin bags, lose our dignity. And I have to be honest with you, James, I heard nothing else. And I just couldn't get out the wrongness of that. And I left in my head saying, I'm going to fix that. And never did I think I was going to fix it by setting up a bag brand that was selling across the UK and beyond, and the breadth of it, and having a team doing it and stuff. I just thought it was simply going back and getting my youth centre, the young people there. Were coming in. They had their old school bags that they probably changed every year. I just collect them. They were probably like us, where they've got a few suitcases in the attic that the chains that went to the TK Maxes and bought a new bag
Yeah. Yeah.
and left the old one, and we could collect it. And it was at that moment I started researching, and I couldn't get past the numbers of children, young people in care.
Mm.
Because I was in this localized thing as children in my own area, I didn't really think of the bigger story of children in care.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I found at that stage, and this was 2014, there was 93,000 children in care across the UK and Ireland, and it's now about 107,000. So it's on the increase. But at 93,000, and what I also found out was that one child entered the care system every 15 minutes.
Ugh.
So even in the hour of this chat that we're having, that's 4 children will have entered care,
Yeah.
and most of their belongings in bin bags. Or today's bin bag is often the plastic shopping bag.
Yeah.
So I just thought, well, if I collect from my young people, I'm not going to be able to fix that number. I might be able to help my local community of 400 or 500 children, but I needed a bigger solution. And then I couldn't also get past the fact that these children have huge value, huge worth. The fact they breathe, they've got value and worth.
Yes. Yeah.
So, and they're not defined by where they come from, what their family background, what they have done, where they have been. They're defined by just the fact they are human. They breathe, and that they have huge value and worth. And out of that, they deserve to be treated with dignity. And so, dignity is giving them a proper brand new bag. So that led on to a journey of, okay, if that is what we need, the numbers, and we need to try and think not secondhand. That would have solved the bin bag, but it
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah,
going to reinforce the value and worth. How do I get the resource to be able to take and get enough bags to deal with those 30 plus thousand children moving into care every year, never
yeah.
mind within it and leaving it? And that's where the whole Madlug concept came from. I tried the charity. I thought the charity approach, but to be honest, my dyslexia and youth work was I was always innovative at finding ways of doing youth work without having to do a
Yes.
funding application.
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Finding a different solution, right?
solution to the problem, because I hated funding applications. I couldn't get my head into it. I couldn't get creative with it. I couldn't get all the stuff that was inside to say about stuff. I hated it. It took me forever. And I also hated the the reporting afterwards. And and then it's the other part I didn't really like was whenever you did it, you had people with suits coming in with clipboards doing follow up reporting and checking
Yeah,
in that you spent your money right. And I was like, I just didn't work with me, and I knew that wasn't fitting who I was as a person. It was never going to be that kind of that was never my strong point.
yes,
And I knew if in a charity world, if I couldn't do that, then I would have to be innovative and doing other things. And the innovation and the other things would be I would have to climb a few mountains, run a few marathons. And to be honest, I'm trying to be healthier and trying to be a leader that's healthier. But in those days, I had the youth worker belly. I loved my coffee and my wee bun and Starbucks. And everything was work in a coffee shop type thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like when you weren't working with young people, and that was never me either. Fundraising and all of that. That's so I ruled the charity out, and at that moment, I had been reminded of a conference that I attended. Now it was an American conference, and I went to the satellite site in Belfast. And they interviewed at that conference a guy called Blake McCoskey, who had founded a brand called Tom's Shoes.
Yeah,
That was 4 years before the black bin bag story came. It was just because what I learned is I have learned to be um, I love leadership. I love learning. I love development of who Dave is and how to be a better person and a better leader in the world that I live in. And I just absorbed that. I love vision and strategy and thinking organizational. I found my place. And when I was in youth work, I loved the young people, but I loved that part of how do I make the environment better? How do I create equip
yeah,
the people to know who to be better so they are better at reaching? And it was all that development stuff. And so I went there. I was hungry to go to anything. And I went to this conference and heard Blake. And Blake was telling the story of Tom's Shoes, where he was traveling to South America. He was on holidays after selling a business, and he saw kids didn't have shoes. And he thought, how do I get shoes to these kids? And he had $5,000 to his name. And he says, if I spend $5,000, I could buy shoes and give them to the kids.
yeah,
But where do I get the next $5,000 to give the next batch of shoes? So he got shoes made in that location, took them back to America with this idea that I'll start selling shoes to friends and family with a commitment that every pair of shoes I give a pair of shoes to a child. It was called Tom's A Better Tomorrow, one for one. Now, America doesn't have social enterprise structures, so it was business where we
yeah.
have a different structure here because philanthropy and wealth doesn't go hand in hand in the UK the way it does in America.
Mm.
So I was triggered with this, and I was on a fans list and a promoter of Tom's shoes. I never wore their shoes because they never really were my style. But I was a promoter. I was telling everyone about this brand company, and then I met with this black bin bag story of kids needing bags. I did. I wonder could I create a bag brand that sells a bag, and every time I sell a bag, I give a bag, and that's what Madlug became.
Yeah, amazing.
And that was the story of how. Now it wasn't as easy as just doing that, you know,
Yep.
but that's where the idea came from.
Well, I mean, like, there's just an amazing story, Dave. That there's just so much I want to unpick. Like, I've been scribbling notes to the point where my arm hurts, because, Like, even if you just talk about your kind of journey into being a youth worker, right? The fact that you were blagging your way into becoming an architectural assistant, and then the universe went, no, I don't think so. We're going to, bring a recession, and that's going to, and you threw in the towel. Like, there's something in you that's going, all right, I gave it my best shot here, and that's not worked out. So I'm just going to step away for a moment. And in that pause, in that kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Not release, but that kind of just willingness to kind of step away, something new emerged, which was spending time in youth work. And again, you use the word role modeling in the same way that you use role modeling from your mum, with this gentleman that you'd spent time working with, who was like, it's all about connection, and how do you create connection and make connection. And so there's something here about seeing again somebody else do something that really feels meaningful, and the power in that in terms of the impact that it had on you. And I love that you were like, I want to be at the edge. Right, like being at the ones that nobody else wants to speak to. They're the ones I want to be with. Like, you talked about your mum standing up for people, and you use this language of kind of underdog. There's almost like the underdog nature of, but this is for you. It's about the kids, rather than just kind of the people that she was working around. That almost drove you into this place of like, wow, at 22 years, like from a £10, I'm doing this because I'm on the dole, to this is my place and this is where I'm going to be. And I don't even know where to begin with the kind of the kind of the meeting of like you having a desire to potentially foster at some point, and then all of a sudden there is this woman in the world who is already fostering all by herself. Like, I don't know if that's a gift from the universe or what, but that journey. But the thing that's just kind of stolen my soul a little bit, and like in a really wonderful way, is when you just started talking about self-worth. And like, these kids breathe, therefore they have value. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not sure that there is going to be, or I'm ever going to hear, a more powerful definition of self-worth and value than that, Dave, if I'm honest. And a big part of the reason why the work of the Excitable Soul is important to me is that more people just need to feel like they have a sense of self-worth. They just need to feel like they're enough. That is it. And so for you turning around and going, well, actually, these guys, they breathe, therefore they have value, and they just have to be able to feel that and appreciate that more. They have to be able to see that somebody else recognizes and acknowledges that in them. And how do we do it? Well, dignity is a start. Mm-hmm. And if part of creating a level of dignity is being able to ensure that they put their things in something that isn't a disposable bag. Like, wow, what a beautiful way of taking something that is deep, meaningful, and significant, and turning it into something that's pragmatic and actionable, which again feels like you harking back to your mum. This isn't about nurturing. This is about what do we do about it.
Yes.
And I also really loved here the being able to see and utilize your dyslexia as a super strength, which is, all right, I can do this way, but none of that turns me on. None of that am I interested in. All of that feels like hard work. All of that feels like effort. And actually, even if I succeed that way, what comes with it, I'm not interested in either. There's got to be a different way. There's got to be a better way. And what does that look like? And the fact that sent you then down the route of starting a business, anybody that started a business knows that that's not easy at all. So when you hear that kind of played back, Dave, what are some of the things that start to kind of show up for you? What are some of the moments within all of that felt like real kind of inflection points?
So I think things are not taught, they're caught.
Yeah, okay.
And they come out of a place of, so the value, worth, dignity piece, for me, comes out of a place of, the how people have treated me. So it's generally, it's nothing is a people around, when at times it's not choosing to be a friend rather than have to be your friend. So I was out with a good friend, and was talking about supporting people, and and going through challenges in life, and they said to me that they come back and says, oh, you've let me down, you and all of the stuff. And And this person said to me, it just says, "You don't get to choose. I am your friend." And I just thought there's something powerful about that. And that's generally because one is that's happened to that person, I'm sure, and it's been passed on. There's a sign around value is we value what we do, and what we do is what we value. And we talk about value as something that it becomes a value statement, but is it actually what we do? And if we say it's what we do, then what we really do is what we value.
Yeah.
And that's the part where I'm really trying to bring this into the care system. Is actually, this is not just words. This is generally, I will go and spend time. The people I haven't met a young person that I wouldn't want to invite home to have dinner with. And yet probably society says there's a stigma that goes with it. The young people are valuable. And I just and that's been my experience. I haven't met anybody in the 10 years I've been doing Madlug, and I've got to meet people at all stages.
Yeah.
Last week I was with some guy that's still on license and just got out. Most amazing fun weekend person I have met in years. And I sat down and I saw a guy of real value and real worth. And I engaged in the connection. The only downside was he supported a different football team than I. And but even that wasn't enough to separate that. We just sat down and connected, and we've been connecting through LinkedIn. And I've sent him a bag and said that you're incredible. But just, where I'm sure in his community and people around have wrote him off, stigmatized this guy. Most amazing guy. This guy's going to do amazing stuff in society and make a difference. And at 21.
Yeah.
And dressed different from me. Everything was different. And yet I would invite him, even in license. With my own kids in the house, I would fight him for dinner, no problem, because he's got huge value. Now there's risk, but I would have no issue with that.
How do you manage, mitigate the kind of the risk element, Dave? Like completely transparently, I'm having my own personal reaction to the experiences and the kind of the freedom and that you talk with in terms of the kind of the engagement here and your willingness to engage in those ways. And I can imagine that there'll be people listening going, wow, like how do you do that? So how do you do that, right? How do you manage the risk and the kind of the sense of protectionism, or mitigate bias and stigma to kind of see through to the soul? Like, how does that work for you?
Well, I think you have to give up self.
Okay.
If you go in with the risk, you go in with self. Now, there's been wise, and there's all of the following safeguard and processes, and there's been totally wise. But what my experience has been, when you show genuine care, actually it breaks, and it brings people to beyond that facade. As a youth worker, when I sat down with those kids on the edge that everybody couldn't do, when I sat down on a sofa with a PlayStation controller and just played PlayStation and just asked them about everything and learned how to ask lots of questions and show care and tell them they were welcome back the next night. And then to go first to them when they came in the room, rather than to the cool young people that everyone else wanted to be around, the ones who were no problem to like and no problem to, then they were in your face and they were telling you were brilliant as a youth worker and we love you, Dave. And that's self. And then you're looking at the world around, and a lot of serving is what we get from it. But when you can lay self down and go, actually, I'm not motivated for money. I'm not motivated for this. I'm just motivated to be Dave and to care. That is the part where I see the breakthrough, where I come in with no judgments, even if I have different views, even if I have different beliefs, even if I have different faith structures, even if I have different, I never allow that to become the barrier to engage.
Yeah. Wallop, the power of that Dave, like the simplicity of the sentiment, which is just kind of lay down self. But the fact that you are talking about being able to hold real tension there between I can have a view, I can have a perspective, my experiences, all of those things, I can hold those and suspend judgment at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
That feels like something that is within the grasp of all of us, but actually we take all of those things and allow them to shape judgment. They're the things that inform how quickly we make a judgment or how judgmental we can be, rather than being able to say, no, I can hold all of those things. I don't have to let go of all of those things. And I can also be free of judgment for a while. So how do you do that? How do you keep yourself out of a place of judgment?
I've no answer for this apart from my view is I just see people as people, and I feel I have a call in this world to love people. That's the pure thing. Is it just to care and to be that, and um, you know, lay down any agenda. So even whenever you approach people, my only agenda is to show love, and that's not fluffy love. My only
Yeah.
agenda is to show and be Dave, and to allow people to see and experience love. And that's the part for me, is the and that's been a journey, because I have been, there's been moments of insecurity, there's been moments of all of the stuff that goes through that, where you love the people feed your egos and stuff like that. And I think 22 years in youth work for me was taking all of that stuff, and now I'm in business, and I I get great opportunities. I get to go to great places. I get to meet great people, and yet the people I've genuinely still love to be alongside is the ones on the edge. A breakfast in 2018 with five other entrepreneurs in London with Richard Branson, and you're sitting there and you're going, and that was a great experience. But actually, my experience at the weekend with a group of lived and learned experienced leaders was more powerful. My experience last week in Newcastle, when I went to a school who had done some fundraising and support for the work of Madlug, and to go into that school where it wasn't even special needs school. It was a school for those who were expelled from school, and every door had locks and pass cards and stuff like that, and every corridor I saw young people with staff. And I was warned before going in that that you could experience and see things here, because the young people that they're working with. And I sat down with the head of that, or the VP of that school, and the staff member, and I said to them, I said, see, if this school was on my doorstep, I'd be applying for a job. And that's when I run a business, social enterprise. I get to go and meet Richard Branson. I've been to Buckingham Palace. I win awards, and yet that's where my real heart lies.
Yeah.
And it's been a bit of a journey in that business place, because for me, I'm still a youth worker. I've had to learn. My business coach, leadership coach, has been basically, Dave, you're now a business leader. So now my terminology is I'm a business leader,
Yeah.
with the heart of a youth worker.
Yeah.
And that's the stuff. Probably at the heart of all of that, and I haven't engaged in this too early on in the podcast, is that I have a deep faith that gives me a grounding in that space, but I don't let that become the determination or the judger or the stuff like that. So I'm very secure in my own, and I go and I live that out in the world that I live.
Yeah. You just beautifully articulated why, how, and what there. You know, the kind of the role that you're playing right now is one of business leader, but actually how you bring yourself to that role actually is born out of the kind of the love and care and the what desire to be at the edge that was born out of 22 years of youth work and, you know, being at a kitchen table with the underdogs, and all of that being fueled by, I guess, a faith and belief in something that creates a level of kind of security and significance within you. Yeah, amazing, Dave. And I guess one final question for me really is, when you look forward from this point, like what are the things that what's next? Like what really what's exciting you? What do you think the leaps of faith look like, that might take you forward into the future? What are your kind of hopes and aspirations and dreams around the things that are important to you right now?
So, as a visionary, I really want Madlug to become or to grow into being the leading bag brand for socially conscious consumers and corporates, and we're not there like in the UK. So we would deal with every kid in care moving with 50,000 bags a year being given. So there's still a significant. We've given 120,000 bags in our journey. That's equivalent to 1.2 million pounds of money value. Never
Yeah.
mind the impact that's had on self worth and stuff like that. With every bag we give, James, just that value worth has that on the bag. So it says you're incredible, value worth dignity, and what suppose the vision for Madlug is, it started off as this idea of funding bags, but now what we're seeing is we're creating a brand that is love without words.
Yeah.
So we're connecting society, removing the stigmas. We're using it as an educator, promoter of children and young people who are often unseen outside of the professional world. And we're doing this brilliance of, when you wear a bag, a child who knows about Madlug feels seen, they feel loved. So it's like, we see you, we know you, we love you, we believe in you. That is the message. And so for me, my vision is just to keep focused. As a dyslexic, the thing is, we can get so away off in so many ideas in the creative space, and I've had to actually learn to journal that's all my creative ideas, and what I've done is give a lot of it away, because actually I've just realized I can't do it all. So
Yeah.
I've just journaled, and I meet somebody, I go, here, I journaled this. Here's an idea. It might help you get started with a business idea. Here's a product idea. Here's that. Now that's not the way the world generally lives, because it's like protect, and
Yeah.
then I'll get to that. And if you don't get to it, the world doesn't get to see that.
Yes.
But I think I'm learning, having to really focus on being intentionally focused on the thing that is my call, which
Yeah.
is the value worth dignity of children and young people in the care, and to ensure that no child carries life in a bin bag. So my next stage is to keep growing that. I've just hired a head of ops to do the day-to-day running of Madlug, so that I can be free to do more of this, James, and more of the
Yes.
sharing the heart and the compassion and the vision and the connecting with some potential corporate customers and so forth. And then probably longer term, like I've still got probably about, I'll never retire, I don't think, because I don't work, I just live. And but I think in the working paid capacity rule type stuff, I've probably got about another 10 to 15 years, unless health gets in the way. And I'm doing this in a little bit, but I think in the longer term, it's then, how do I empower other people that we can multiply this kind of movement of impact.
Yeah.
So I can help other people and mentor other people and inspire other people to be doing grounded leadership within a social impacting environment. Um, that's where I'm going. And then the other part is, I think Madlug is now at the stage where it needs to grow into a community. It needs to deepen its community roots and go deeper and empower and connect as a community, rather than a brand just doing Meta ads and Google ads, and so we're constantly thinking like, how do we just take this and just grow it in a place where it's less about the perfect model on the website. Can we really build this as a DNA of a community of people who genuinely are saying, we see you, we know you, you have huge value, worth dignity. So that's where we're going.
Well, the second that we finished here, Dave, I'm getting on the website and I'm buying some bags. And that is the only way I can express the emotion I'm feeling right now, which is get out there as wherever is opportunity for you to get out there, because you are incredibly powerful. Like, I have just sat here and been blown away by the journey that you've been on, your willingness to kind of share the experiences that you've had and the impact that you're trying to create in the world. And well, the Excitable Soul will do whatever it can, wherever it can, to help advance that mission in our own small way. So
amazing.
Wherever we can be part of your community, we're fully up for it.
James, can I just give a couple of wee things to other Excitable Soul people who have got something burning inside that they want to do? So a couple of wee learnings on this, because it wasn't easy. You know, like, how do you get from an idea of bag company? So it was £500, no investors, reinvesting, no salary for 3 years, all of that stuff. A couple of wee things. Just if something is burning, the key to it is find their black bin bag story.
Yeah,
the black bin bag story is the story within the story. Too often we get excitable about broad, and then get excitable about the and it seems like people around me told me it's only a bin bag. There's bigger problems to fix, but that has become the thing that has kept me focused. And the other key things is money always follows vision. And Blake McCoskey in his book put a thing. He says, you know, someday we'll take your dreams to the grave. If it's so important to you, just do it, and the course will work itself out. and I look back. I was 42 and started Madlug. I look back and I go, how many some days were rob the dreams? Because this wasn't the first dream. This wasn't the first opportunity. This wasn't the first thing I got excited about. But the someday I'll have more money. Someday I'll be married. Someday I'll have a university degree. Robbed all of that. And I've waited and waited and waited. So I've learned is don't let the someday. And often the someday for many people is the money.
Yeah.
But in my view is you just get out and you don't let that someday, and the money always follows, because people follow the vision.
Yeah.
And that's my 2 bits of advice is money following vision, don't let the someday, and find the black bin bag, because the black bin bag is a negative, but it's an excitable driver in me that I can see an end and a fix to one wee thing that actually is huge for children, young people, and it keeps me on track and stops me from getting distracted.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you, Dave. Thank you. This was incredible. Your work is incredible. You are incredible, and thank you for bringing love to the world, because Lord knows we need more of it right now. So thank you.
Very welcome. Thanks for having us on your podcast.
Brilliant. Ladies and gents, you'll be able to find all the links to Madlug in the show notes, so please go check them out and support their mission. Thank you for taking the time to listen to the Excitable Soul podcast. We appreciate your support and would love you to subscribe, rate, review, and recommend if you can. It makes a massive difference. Equally, if you're interested in uncovering, understanding, and unleashing your unique sense of purpose, or that of your teams, come and explore our purpose immersion programs at theexcitablesoul.com. We look forward to hearing from you there or being with you on our next episode. Have an incredible day.